Hi everyone, welcome to this session of reading comprehension. In this session, we are going to look at one very good strategy that you can use for every passage on GRE. So let's get started. The agenda for today's session is going to be RC facts, importance of RC strategy, and practice. So let's get into the facts. So what kind of reading comprehension questions do we have on the GRE? So there are going to be approximately 10 passages in both your verbal sections, and most of these passages are going to be small. They are going to be one paragraph in length, or in some cases it could also be 2 or 3 paragraphs. But then long RCs are very rare on the GRE. There could only be maybe a 2 or 3 such passages out of those 10 passages that you'll have on the test. And where are these passages coming from? So these will be coming from wide variety of resources. So typically the type of passages that we found on the GRE would be physical sciences, biology, history, social sciences, arts and humanities, and just about anything that we typically come across in academic and non-academic world. So why is RC important? First of all, half of your questions are going to come from reading comprehensions. So if you look at it, so there are going to be 20 verbal questions in one section, right? And there are going to be 2 sections. So that is 40 questions, and out of those we are going to have 10 paragraphs, right? So let's say, as you, on an average, a passage has 2 questions. So there's on about 20 questions on reading comprehensions and 20 questions on text completions and sentence equivalence and everything. So that is half of your verbal section is comprised of reading comprehension. So that is why reading comprehension is the most important thing. And the answers are in front of you. Of course, they don't assume, you don't really need to have a very good hold on grammar. You don't really need to understand a very good vocabulary. But then you should be able to interpret the passage, interpret the information in a particular way, and there is not going to be any ambiguity. So it's a standardized test. So the way you should, there is only one way in which you are expected to interpret the information given in the passage, and there is not going to be any confusion on any of the information given there. So if you find yourself confused, if you think that you can interpret it in 2 different ways, go for the standard one, and that's going to be rare anyway. So what my point here is that the answers are in front of you. It is just a matter of gathering that information, comprehending that, and that is what the question says, reading comprehension. You have to read that information, understand it, that is comprehend it in a particular way, and then answer the questions. Now there are going to be information based questions that you will be able to pick directly from the passage. There are going to be some inference questions for which you will have to extend the logic that the author is giving you, or draw some conclusion, or draw some parallelism from that information to a different scenario, or some kind of thing. But at the end, it is about understanding the passage, and the answers are going to be in front of you. If you interpret the passage in the correct way, there should not be any reason why you would not get most of the RC questions wrong, and that is what is going to come to you only if you practice a lot. So the only way to go about RCs is have a strategy in place and use that strategy for every reading comprehension passage that you will practice. You should be practicing at least a few 2 or 3 reading comprehension passages every day. It is not going to be something you will be able to pick up in a week or 2 weeks. So don't keep this preparation towards the end of your tests. You should be practicing RC every day, and you will see that after a while you will imbibe the standardized way of passages and questions. In fact, a lot of times it happens that if you have practiced enough, as you're reading the passage, you will also understand what type of questions can be expected here. And once you get to that level, then everything will fall in place. So you should be trying to get to that level, and the only way to do that is practice regularly. So now let's look at one strategy, and this is the most important piece of this entire session. So there's one strategy that we call mind map strategy that is going to help you solve any specific RC. And this is a general enough strategy. There is not going to be a lot of do this and do that kind of thing. It's one simple approach but it will help you in figuring out how exactly to go about reading comprehension with good accuracy. So let's get right into the strategy. Okay, understanding mind map. So the first step, so no, just before we get into the strategy, let's understand what a mind map is. So if you just no, think about it for a minute. So mind map is something, some kind of mapping inside your map, and that's how one should interpret this term. So basically, what we are trying to do here is we have a passage, we have some information given to us. We are just trying to create a mental image of that, and there are multiple ways of doing this. So one way of doing this is what I'm going to explain, but no, what we have here in these 5 steps here, but feel free to customize it as per your needs. This is very general kind of a strategy. You know that it's not like you have to follow this word for word, but then if you can just kind of come up with your own version of this or something similar, that will help you in let's say in constructing the RC in your own mind in a particular way. That is the approach that you should follow. So one of those approaches is what I have given here on this page in 5 steps. So let's go through that. So the first step here is read every sentence carefully and summarize it in your own words before you move on to other sentences. Right, so it's basically at the end of the day what we are trying to do is understanding the information, and no, you if the best way to understand the information is to summarize it in your own simple words. Don't just reread it. Rereading the passage and trying to may even lead you to believe that you are understanding the passage, but you don't really understand the passage unless you have your own version of it. Right, so it is very important for you to summarize it in your own words and simpler words, so that the entire logic, the argument that the author is trying to make, the information that he is giving, you're kind of fitting it in your own mind in your own particular way. Right, so it's very important to put it in your own words. Moving on, understand what is being said in the sentence and how it relates to the information given in the previous sentences. Also anticipate what might logically come in the next sentence. Now what I'm trying to do here is that, see, it's not going to be it's not going no, the passage is going to have a particular argument. There's going to be one particular flow of information. So a previous sentence is going to be related to the next sentence. The next sentence after that is also going to be related to its previous sentence. So there is a particular flow in which all this information will be presented, and a very good way of understanding the passage is to understand how all these segments are related. Right, so you have to understand the relation between one sentence to the next sentence to its next sentence and all that. And also it when you are dealing with multiple paragraphs, you should also be able to understand how the idea from one paragraph is leading you to the next idea in the next paragraph and the idea in the next paragraph, that way. Right, so it is whether you think in terms of sentences, or you think in terms of ideas, or you think in terms of paragraphs, it does not really matter. What matters is, are you able to understand the flow? Right, once start from a particular point, the first sentence, to end to the at the particular point which is the last sentence, and you should be able to in your own words form describe the entire journey of thought from that first point to the last point. If you are able to do that, you'll have your own version of RC, and then it will just be going to be very easy for you to answer any question based on that RC. Right, we call it mind map because after reading the entire passage with the above approach, you have a clear map of all the information present in the passage. Right, so mind map, basically what is it? Is it just a summary, or is it an image? Is it a picture? What is it? So every person has a different way of looking at mind map, and a lot of times people just draw pictures because they help. So a mind map could be something like this. Oh, this is the central idea, and then the author is giving examples, and then there's example 1, there's example 2. I'm just thinking aloud. There's example 3. So this kind of thing, if it helps you, you should go for this. There's some people they just put it on paper, saying that, oh, there is an idea, then there's an example 1, there's an example 2, and an example 3, and they just kind of write it in text. where some people just make a diagram out of it. So whatever is your style, go with it. There is not really any specifics into how to go ahead with the mind map, but the mind map, the idea is, after reading the entire passage with the above approach, you should have a clear map of all the information present in the passage. Now, whether that map is a textual map or a pictorial map, or it's a flow chart, or it's just a mental image, no, it doesn't really matter. I normally want students to write it down on paper, because then it just it just acts as a you will make sure that no information is missing. If you just think that I have an image in my mind, and no, I'm just not going to write down anything on paper, and then no, I'll be able to answer. You may still be able to answer, but a better way, or rather a more safer way of answering that is just note down everything, however brief. Of course, I don't want you to write the summary of the paragraph in text, because that is going to take a lot of time and there's not really going to be any value add there. So just have like a very brief structural overview of the passage on paper, and that is what is going to help you. Okay, this will not only help you answer fact-based questions, but it will also give you very good idea about the tone and other aspects of passage. And the most important thing here, the fifth thing, is remember not to add any extra or general knowledge information to the passage. The questions are to be answered purely based on what is stated in the passage. You may choose to write down the mind map on paper as you read. So basically what we've learned in this slide is, we read the passage one sentence by sentence, we try to interpret it, or rather say the same thing in our own words, and note it down on paper, whether it's in the form of a flow chart or it's an image, or it doesn't really matter. However you feel like interpreting, noting down, you're free to do that. But the idea is that it has to act as a summary of the paragraph, and then what information lies where, and then look at the question, and then we'll try to figure out how where to dig further, because it's not going to be possible that the mind map is going to give you answers to all the questions. There may be some factual questions, very detailed questions, the information for which may not be present in the mind map, but the mind map will tell you where to look. So it's kind of a map again. So it does not describe everything, but it's kind of an index. So you kind of know by looking at this, okay, I now need to kind of read this sentence further to get the actual answer, and that is where your approach becomes very structured. Okay, so let's get our hands dirty. Let's see what kind of mind maps are we talking about here. So this is the first RC for you, and I'll just give you a few minutes. Let's say you can pause the video and try to come up with a mind map for this one. Okay, so let's now read it. Let's kind of I have a mind map on the next slide, but I'll just walk you through how I went about creating that mind map for this particular RC. So here the idea is, okay, let's start reading. While most scholarship on women's employment in the US recognizes the Second World War dramatically changed the role of women in the workforce, these studies also acknowledge that few women remained in manufacturing jobs once men returned from war. Okay, now this is one sentence. So what we're talking about here is that there have been studies in the US based on women employment in wartime, women employment in wartime. Okay, but the studies say that in manufacturing sector, few women remained in manufacturing jobs after the war. Right, so manufacturing saw decline in women employees. Okay, but now here this is kind of a role reversal here. But in agriculture, so now we are comparing manufacturing and agriculture. Unlike other industries where women were viewed as temporary workers, so in agriculture women were looked at permanent workers. So but in agriculture, women's employment did not end with the war. So there is a contrast here. So we are talking about agriculture is equal to did not end employment. Okay. Instead, the expansion of agriculture and a steady decrease in the number of male farm workers combined to cause the industry to hire more women in the post-war years. So instead, it said agriculture did not end. Instead, it kept on rising. The women employment in agriculture kept on rising, and there are two reasons given. One is steady increase in agriculture, and second is decrease in the number of male farm workers. Okay, so we can just write down two examples, or rather two reasons for that. Okay, consequently, so now the author is concluding. So the conclusion is that consequently the 1950s saw, that is the post-war, right? So war ended in 1945. So 1950s saw a growing number of women engaged in farm labor, even though rhetoric in the popular media called for the return of women to domestic life. So even if the popular media wanted women to return to domestic life, women continued to work in the farm sector. So farm sector in the 1950s had a boom in women employment. Right? Now this is the mind map we are talking about. This is basically what we have done is we are just tried to put this information on our own thoughts, and like you will see that this mind map does not have all the information, because there are two reasons stated here that we are not noting down which two reasons there are, but we know that those two reasons lie here. So in case there is any question on that, we are we'll just reread this paragraph here, and we'll be able to answer those questions. Okay, so I've just written the same thing here. What it says is sentence 1, Second World War led to significant changes in women's employment. Those changes did not last in manufacturing. In agriculture, however, women employment did not recede after the war. The agriculture sector grew, and the number of men employed in it decreased, while the number of women employees kept rising. So these are the two reasons. Okay, and conclusion that 1950 saw a growing number of women engaged in farm labor. So this is kind of the mind map. So now let's look at how we will be able to answer these questions. Questions based on this passage, looking at the mind map. Okay, the first question would be, it can be inferred from the passage that the manufacturing and agriculture sectors in the United States following the Second World War differed in which of the respects. Okay, so we are talking about the difference in manufacturing and agriculture sectors. So we will come back to mind map even before we go to the answer choices, because if you read the answer choices, there is a huge probability that you will get confused, right? So let's have some kind of an idea before we go to the answers. So we are comparing post World War manufacturing sector and agriculture sector, and we are comparing their women employment in both. Okay, so let's go through this. So Second World War led to significant changes in women employment. These changes did not last in manufacturing. However, in agriculture, women employment kept rising. So that is the central theme. So one thing that we know is the answer choice is going to talk about manufacturing sector, women employment in manufacturing sector not increasing or rather decreasing, and in agriculture sector the women employment is growing. That is the answer that we want, right? So let's look at the options. The rate of expansion in each sector. Are we talking about the rate? Not necessarily talking about it. We're talking about the rising employment of women in agriculture sector, whereas decreasing employment of women in manufacturing sector. So this is not a correct answer. The percentage of employees in each sector who were men. Okay. Are we talking about anything about men employment? The only thing we know about men employment is that we have men employment was decreasing in agriculture. But then here, look at this. We are talking about a percentage of employees, right? So if men employees, the number of men employees is decreasing in agriculture, that means number of women employees is increasing, and the percentage of men employees is decreasing in agriculture. Okay. So in agriculture versus manufacturing, now we are talking about male employment. So male employment percentage is decreasing, whereas manufacturing it is increasing. That is because less and less, fewer and fewer women are working in manufacturing, whereas more and more women are working in agriculture. So this is kind of a tricky question. The percentage of employees in each sector who were men. It does not appear that we are talking anything about percentage of employees who are men. But then yes, just by the virtue of there being more women, it indirectly means, or rather it directly means that that there are fewer men. So this is something that is relevant to what we are looking at. Okay, the trend in wages of men employed in each sector. We are talking about wages at all, so that is not correct. the attitude of popular media towards the employment of women in each sector. Now we are talking about attitude of popular media towards popular media wanted women to come back home and not work, but they are not saying that don't work in manufacturing, don't work in agriculture. So the media is not differentiating anything between the manufacturing sector and the farm agriculture sector. So this answer is not correct, whereas because the question is asking specifically between a comparison between the manufacturing sector and agriculture sector. So this is not correct. D, the extent to which men in each sector were satisfied with their jobs. Now we are not at all talking about women's satisfaction or employee satisfaction in any way. So this is completely irrelevant. So the only correct answer we have is B. So another thing, for like any standardized test, it is very important to eliminate 4 options when you choose one. Let's say if you could not directly relate the percentage of thing, if you think this is this is something not directly stated in the passage, all right, but then at least you should be able to eliminate these 4, and then you will come back to this one and saying that okay, now this is not explicitly stated, but I can still infer that, right? And this is kind of an inference question, and then you will end up picking B as the correct answer. So don't put a cross unless you know that is definitely wrong, and don't put a tick unless you know that all other 4 options are are wrong, right? So that is a very good way of choosing the most correct answer. Okay, let's go to the second question. So this is the answer for the first one. Okay, let's go to the second one. Which of the following statements about women's employment in the United States during and after the World War is most correctly supported by the passage? Okay, so let's go back to the paragraph. So we will just quickly make a note of this. We are talking about this. We are talking about women employment in post-World War years in manufacturing and agricultural sectors. Manufacturing, women employment is decreasing. Agriculture, women employment is increasing for 2 reasons. That is, agriculture sector itself is growing, and also the number of men employed is decreasing. And that is why 1950 saw a steady rise in women employment in the farm labor. That is the mind map. So based on that, how can we answer this question? Based on that, following statement, which are the following about women's employment is most clearly supported by the passage? Most women who joined the workforce during World War War returned to domestic life when the war ended. This is not correct, because many women in agriculture sector continued to grow. So this is not correct. The great majority of women who joined the workforce during the Second World War were employed in manufacturing jobs. Now this is never written that maximum number of women, great majority, maximum number of women who were working in manufacturing job. That is not directly stated anywhere, right? The end of Second World War was followed by a large-scale transfer of women workers from manufacturing to agriculture. Okay, now are we talking about a transfer? We know that manufacturing employment is decreasing, agriculture employment is increasing, but is that a transfer? Does the paragraph say that women who are leaving jobs in manufacturing are getting jobs in agriculture? It does not directly state that. So there is a little bit of confusion here. Let's put a question mark. Okay, the increase in women's employment that accompanied the Second World War was longer lasting in agriculture than in manufacturing. Now this is exactly what the passage says. It says that the increase in women employment sustained in agriculture more than it sustained in manufacturing. Yes, this is exactly what we are talking about. Okay, so we'll keep this for now. The popular media were more forceful in calling for women to join the workforce during World War II than in calling for women to return to domestic life. Now we don't know the role of media during the war. It is never stated. It's not covered in the paragraph, so we will not choose this one. Now between this and this, obviously there is a little bit of question mark here, where this appears to be the correct answer, and that is the central theme of the passage anyway. So we'll pick D as the correct answer. Right? So you will see that looking at the mind map, now you will be able to answer these questions. Now what we will do is, I'll give you another paragraph, and you do the mind map. We'll quickly go through the mind map, and of course you can pause the video to read the passage. Come up with your own mind map. I'll give you my mind map, and then we'll quickly go through the answers. And there's going to be another paragraph, a long one, that we will do in a similar fashion. Okay, so my mind map here comes out to be like this. So we are talking about long distance dispersal of seeds must have played a significant role in the variety of plants in Hawaii. That is how the paragraph opens, and there is dispute about how this how this transportation of seeds happened. So what was the method of transportation? So there are two type of people. Some people say that ocean and air currents were responsible for transport. Okay, but then there is another observation that the author is making, but this hypothesis does not seem correct because the result of flotation experiments, there are some flotation experiments that people have done. Uh, those results and the low temperatures of air currents are not really suitable for this kind of transport. So even if there is a possibility, no, it's not a very very sound hypothesis. This is what the author is saying. Alternatively, the second type group of people believe that bird transport is the second transportation method. Okay, and that seems more probable because birds can transfer seeds either externally or internally. Okay, and no, there are, he has given examples. One example of how they are going to do externally. So these seeds stick to their wings and everything, and that is the method of external bird transportation. Whereas internal, so these seeds are eaten by birds, and then through their waste, these seeds are planted on Hawaii. So that's like an internal bird transfer. So the author is giving those examples. And lastly, what the author is saying is, while it is likely that fewer varieties of plant seeds have reached Hawaii externally than internally. Now he is talking about the likelihood of bird transport internal versus bird transport external. Okay, while it is likely that fewer varieties of plant seeds have reached Hawaii externally than internally, more varieties are known to be adapted to external than internal transport. Okay, that is one information that one piece of information that the author is giving us. Okay, now you have some kind of a mind map like this. Okay, let's go to the questions now and see how we can answer this question based on this mind map. Okay, the author of the passage is primarily concerned with what? He is talking. Let's look at the mind map. What is the central theme of the paragraph? We are talking about methods of transportation, and we are kind of analyzing. There are two ways in which this could have happened. We are analyzing what method is more probable, right? And the author is trying to give reasons for that also. So that is the central theme. Okay, let's look at the answers. Discussing different approaches biologists have taken to test theories about the distribution of plants in Hawaii. Are we talking about approaches, or discussing different theories about transport of plant seeds in Hawaii? So are we talking about approaches, or we are talking about theories themselves? So we are talking about theories here, right? So B is what appears to be the correct answer, right? So let's put a question mark here, because it's always a good idea to put some question answers for some answer choices where we are not really sure. Okay, discussing the extent to which air currents are responsible for the dispersal of plant seeds in Hawaii. Now he's saying that air currents are not really important, right? But then, are we talking about the extent to which air currents are responsible? Do we know that they are responsible only for 30%, or they are responsible for 80%? We don't really know that. Okay. Resolving a dispute about the adaptability of plant seeds to bird transport. There is no dispute we are talking about. So this is not definitely the correct answer. Resolving a dispute about the ability of birds to carry plant seeds long distances. We are not talking about that dispute. Okay, so now we are left with this: discussing different approaches, discussing different theories, or discussing the extent to which air currents are responsible. So again, this is not explicitly stated. This is not explicitly stated anywhere. Whereas this seems be the central theme. So we'll pick answer B, and that is the correct answer. So let's move to this one. Author mentions the results of flotation experiments on plant seeds, most probably in order to. Okay, now if you look at the mind map, flotation experiments. Okay, so let's look at the flotation experiments. Okay, so here, see, where are the flotation experiments? So we are talking about this flotation experiments. So what he is saying is, air currents and ocean are responsible, but the latest results of flotation experiments really don't give a lot of confidence in this hypothesis. This hypothesis does not seem very correct, because maybe the results of flotation experiments are negative, or they show that it doesn't really work, right? So basically what he is saying is, flotation experiments are not really supporting the idea that ocean and air currents are responsible. That is the idea. So let's look at the answer choices. To support the claim that dispersion of plants in Hawaii is the result of long-term dispersal of seeds, is he supporting the claim that distribution of plants in Hawaii is the result of long distance dispersal of seeds? This has nothing to do with flotation experiment, right? The flotation experiment basically says that air currents are not responsible. So this is not correct. Lend credibility to the thesis that air currents provide a method of transportation for plant seeds. This he is not lending credibility. In fact, he is raising question. Flotation experiments are raising questions. So this is not correct. Suggests that the long distance dispersal of seeds is a process that requires long periods of time. So we are not talking anything like that here. Challenge the claim that ocean currents are responsible for transport of plant seeds to Hawaii. That is correct. And last one, refute the claim that Hawaiian flora evolved independently from flora in other parts of the world. We are not talking about that. We are in fact saying that they are dependent because we are talking about the transport of seeds and everything, right? So this is anyway not explicitly stated anywhere in the passage. So the correct answer here is D. So I'm going to give you another passage right now on similar lines, and this is a little long, but you can pause the video and take your time, come up with your mind map. I'll give you the mind map and we'll go through the questions. The 3 paragraphs. This is the 3rd paragraph. So when you are done, you can restart the video. Okay, the mind map. Now let's not think of sentence by sentence because this is a long passage. So we'll just try to break down the entire passage into 3 paragraphs, and we'll construct the mind map based on paragraph structure. So the first paragraph talks about the interaction between predators and prey causing the evolution of intelligence in them. Certain components of intelligence were far more improved than other components. Okay? That is what the first paragraph is saying. Second paragraph gives example. Talks more about attention or consciousness. That is one area that the author believes has most benefited from this interaction between predators and prey. So attention or consciousness was the primary area of improvement. The author talks about a range of attention, a lot of different things about attention he talks about range of attention, process of arousal, intelligence. Intelligence, basically he defines intelligence as being able to learn from previous experiences, organize previous experiences. So intelligence is organizing previous experiences, and he also talks about consciousness. That is what he covers in the second paragraph. Now the third paragraph, the author talks about how attention is different in predators and prey. Okay, he also describes that predators' aggressiveness is closer to human consciousness than instinctive behavior of lizards. So there is one example that he is giving. He is saying that this attention that predators have, that is more close to the human consciousness rather than very instinctive behavior like those of like that of lizards. Okay, now this is kind of the rough outline of the mind map. So let's directly get into the questions now. Okay. The author refers to hungry lizard primarily in order to. Now if you look at it, we have lizards. Where do we have lizards here? We are talking about lizards here, right? Behavior of lizards. And what is the idea that the author is trying to come up with? What he's saying is the instinctive behavior of lizards is not how predators' aggressiveness is not similar to predators' aggressiveness. In fact, predators' aggressiveness is more is closer to human consciousness and not exactly the same as instinctive behavior of lizards. That is the idea author is talking about. So which of the answers is fitting there? Demonstrate the similarity between hunting methods of mammals and those of non-mammals. So we are not talking about similarity. In fact, we are talking about differences, right? So mammals means predator and non-mammals mean a lizard is a non-mammal. So that way. Broaden the application of argument by including an insectivore as an example. So we are not broadening the application of the argument. So the argument here is that the interaction between predators and prey is leading to leading to better faculties for both these species, right? Are we extending this argument to lizards? No, we are just using lizard as an example to show that that kind of consciousness is not what we are talking about in predators. So this is irrelevant. The third one, make a distinction between higher and lower level of consciousness. Right. So what he's basically saying is the consciousness for predators is similar to human consciousness. It is not hyper consciousness like that of lizards. This is the idea we're talking about. So this is making a distinction between higher and lower levels of consciousness. Okay, let's just keep this for a while. Provide an additional illustration of brutality characteristic of predators. No, we are not using that as an example of brutality. And fifth, offer an objection to suggestions that all animals lack consciousness. No, we are not talking about that. So this is not correct. The correct answer here is C. Make a distinction between higher and lower levels of consciousness. Okay. Let's look at the next question. It can be inferred from the passage that in animals less intelligent than the mammals discussed in the passage. Okay. Where are we talking about intelligence? We are talking about intelligence. If you go back to the mind map, you will see that where are we talking about intelligence? We are talking about intelligence as organizing previous experiences. So if some mammals are less intelligent, what are they going to know? How are they going to be different than animals of higher intelligence? So the animals with lower intelligence will not be able to organize previous experiences very well. That is the idea. So we want some kind of an answer which will bring out that fact. Okay. It can be inferred from the passage that animals less intelligent than the mammals discussed in the passage. Past experience is less helpful in ensuring survival, or attention is more highly focused. We are not talking about attention. Okay. Muscular coordination is less highly developed. There is less need for competition among species. Environment is more important in establishing the proper ratio of prey to predator. So which of this talks about less intelligence, meaning to less organization of previous experiences, and then what, right? So past experience is the only paragraph here, option choice here, that talks about previous experiences. So past experience is less helpful in ensuring survival. That is correct, because they are not able to organize their thoughts so well, previous experiences so well, and that's why they don't learn so much from past experiences, and then that does not help them anywhere. So it less helpful in ensuring survival. So this seems to be the correct one. Attention is more highly focused. So it's not there is no relation between intelligence and attention, right? Explicitly stated in the paragraph. So that is not correct. Muscular coordination and intelligence, there is no coordination in that. There is less need for competition among species. This is also never touched in the paragraph. Environment is more important in establishing proper ratio of prey to predator. We are not at all talking about ratio of prey and predator. So that is not correct. So the correct answer here would be A. Past experience is less helpful in ensuring survival. Okay. According to the passage, improvement in brain function among early large mammals resulted primarily from which of the following? So improvement in brain function resulted from which of the following? If you go back to the first sentence of the paragraph, you will say that we are talking about improvement in brain faculties because of the interaction between predator and prey, right? So that is the central theme of the first paragraph, and we should have an answer which talks about interaction between prey and predators. Okay, let's look at that. Interplay of predator and prey, right on target. Okay, this is like a very easy question actually. Persistence of free floating awareness in animals and grasslands, of gradual dominance of warm-blooded mammals over cold-blooded reptiles. We are not talking about this at all. See, look at. Do we anywhere talk about this? We don't. Then, and the RC does not require you to have use any external information. That means this answer choice is bound to be incorrect, right? Free floating awareness of animals in grasslands. Okay. Interaction of early large mammals with less intelligent species. Intelligence comes something later and does not talk about interaction of early large mammals with less intelligent species. It actually talks about interplay of, or other interaction of predator and prey. So that this is more correct. Improvement of capacity of memory among herbivores and carnivores. We are talking about herbivores and carnivores. Okay. So why didn't we pick this one? Persistence of free floating awareness in animals and of the grassland. So we are not talking about this. This is touched upon in the passage, of course, but it's not related to improvement of brain function. So improvement of brain function is a result of what? Interplay of predator and prey. So A is the correct answer. Let's look at the last question. According to the passage, as the process of arousal in an organism or continues, all of the following may occur except. Okay. Now we are talking about some process of arousal. Okay. Now if you look at the mind map, we don't have a lot of details. We are not given a lot of details about this, so we may have to refer to the original passage for this. So let's go back to the original passage. Let's look at the answer choices and let's see which of all these are used in the original passage. There are going to be four things going to be used in the passage or explicitly mentioned in the passage. One will not be, right? So let's look at what those 5 things are. So we are looking for words like adrenaline, norepinephrine, or heightening of sensitivity of stimuli, or an increase in selectivity with respect to stimuli, or an expansion of range of states. Okay. So let's go back to that and see which of this makes sense. So we are here, right? This is where the stimuli are mentioned. Okay, elements of intelligence consciousness come together marvelously to produce different styles. Herbivores and carnivores develop different kinds of attention related to escaping and chasing, although both kinds of animals. Arousal stimulates. Okay, so there is stimuli, right? Arousal stimulates. We are talking about arousal, right? Arousal stimulates the production of adrenaline and norepinephrine. Okay, so those options are gone. Adrenaline and norepinephrine options are gone. Both the options for stimuli are gone. The adrenal glands. The effect of herbivores is primarily fear, whereas carnivores the effect is aggression. Okay, perhaps it does not explain to. Okay, do we have any of those words mentioned here? Using past events of framework. Okay, with referring mind. Okay, fine. So we are not talking about arousals now. Okay, so fine. So let's go back to answer choices now. So when an animal gets aroused, what happens to it? Production of adrenaline, yes, it produces adrenaline, correct. So this is not correct answer. Production of norepinephrine, yes, it is mentioned, so this is not correct. Heightening of stimuli, yes. An increase in selectivity with respect to stimuli, yes, right. So what is left? An expansion of range of states mediated by the brainstem. Now this is not mentioned anywhere in the paragraph, so this is the correct answer. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this session. So just as a quick recap, the key takeaway you should have from this session is RCs can decide the fate of your GRE score. It's half of your verbal section, so you have to do very good on RC. Do not leave RC preparation at the end of your preparation. You have to do regular practice. Regular practice is the only way to improve performance in RCs. Solving RCs every day is the only way to improve speed and accuracy. Yes. Now one thing I like to mention here, rather than editorials, novels, etc. Now why do we have this? So editorials and novels definitely will help you in improving your general English and vocabulary and everything, but then that's not a very structured RC preparation, because for obviously there are not going to be any questions on editorials and novels, and a large part of your RC preparation is looking for answers. So even if editorials or any good material helps you in improving your English, it's not a standard preparation for RCs. So the only good way to prepare for RCs is to solve real world RCs for the GRE, and let it be a very structured, very focused approach. Take 2 or 3 RCs every day and solve them. And if you're short of material anyway, it is also a good idea to go back to the RCs that you have done, because you're not going to remember any of that after a few days, and it's still a good idea to go through those RCs if you are short of material. While practicing, it is important to have an approach in place, and that approach that we give is mind map. You can interpret it in your own way, but just as a brief recap, read every paragraph or sentence, take your eyes off the screen and summarize the para. This is the most important thing. List the summary of each paragraph and relate it to the previous paragraph. That is the second most important thing. You should have a flow of thought. For structured questions, you may not need to look at the passage. Some questions you will be able to look at answer looking at the mind map. Some questions you will have to look at, like the last question that we just did. no, we had to look at the original passage, but then at least you know where to look at, right? Fact-based, inference-based question, you will need to go back to passage, but then you know where the information lies. So the role of mind map basically is to give a structured approach to your RC solving. So I thank you for watching this video. I hope that you got a good idea about the mind map strategy. Feel free to interpret it in your own way, but at the end of the day, you should have some kind of structured written evidence or written summary of the passage. That is the whole idea about it. If you have any questions or improvement or suggestions, do let us know on these details here. And once again, I thank you for watching the video.